This is Robert Phoenix. Robert Phoenix. Robert Phoenix. Robert Phoenix. This is the Astro Weather. Hey, what's happening, everybody? We are back for the Thursday edition of the Astro Weather. It is 12/4/25. 12/4/25. Wow. The time flew, didn't it? The year the snake is about to shed its skin. And within a few brief months, it will transform itself into the great alchemical act of becoming a horse. And the year of the horse, the year of the fire horse, the most ominous year in the Chinese zodiac. And I think we have the fire rooster after that as well. So fire horse, fire, there's a lot of fire in the sky. Of course, we'll have the air and the fire planets creating a much more combustible nature in the realm of the outer planets. And it's when worlds collide. So we'll get into chat here in just a second and do a little meet and greet. Let people show up here. Oh, look who's here. Speaking of showing up, it's the old man, the astrological cat himself. Been spending most of his days, since it's cold here, on my bed. And then Peachy decides that she's going to go track him down. It's like, oh, I may as well stay here too. And the next thing you know, they've got a little cuddle puddle, don't they? You got so lucky. You've had two beautiful cats who've taken care of you and groomed you. You've had a very good second act with Miss Peaches, haven't you? I wanted to show you guys the buck that was in my backyard. I was actually able to take a picture. And let me see if I can find it. There it is right there. So this is, let me see if I got it. I got to burn it. Try it again. So this is the buck that was in my backyard yesterday while I was doing the show. And what had happened was that he had moved. So when I first did when I did the first show, the weather, he was kind of off to the right from where I sit. So kind of maybe at like 1 or 2 o'clock, which put him right in front of the window of where I do 15 Minutes of Flame, which is in a different part of the studio. And my neighbor kept texting me, it's like, oh man, you got this buck in your backyard. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So that's when I got up and went to go take the picture. And he was gone. So then when I went into the bedroom, it was like changing or something. And I looked in my window in the backyard, and there he was. He was sitting in front of my dilapidated little tin shed in the back, and just chilling out. He found some shade. He had it made in the shade. You can see here where he might have gotten into a tussle with another buck and maybe lost part of his horn. Right there. If I were him, I'd stay close to the suburbs, because if he's out there in the wild, he's got a target. He's got a target right there. That's where that target is. And no doubt he'd wind up on somebody's wall and probably in some sausage. He'd be encased in pork casing, right? Usually. So there you go. There's the buck from yesterday. That's what I was talking about. All right. Let's see. Who do we have here today? Let's check out the old chatteroo. We got DJ MC, the new next. Yeah, Mr. Ed. I loved Mr. Ed when I was a kid. He was funny as hell. I loved him. Whenever I saw Mr. Ed on TV, I was watching. In fact, I watched part of an episode last night with Clint Eastwood, because they would have cameos and guest stars on Mr. Ed. And Alan Young, who played Mr. Ed's owner, he was English. And you wouldn't be able to tell that from his voice, because he didn't sound English when he played, I forget his name, when he played Mr. Ed's human. He was Mr. Ed's sidekick. Let's put it that way. Johnny had Ed McMahon, and Mr. Ed had Alan Wilson. So there used to be all these. I loved Mr. Ed because he was mischievous. He was mischievous. He was always getting into trouble. He was like the Dennis the Menace of horses. And I still think it's fucking hilarious to this day to watch a horse move its lips and have that Wilbur, a little lower, Wilbur. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, unless the horse, of course, the famous Mr. Ed. Thank you, Julie. Of course, Mr. Ed's genesis started with Francis the Talking Mule, which was a series of movies with Donald O'Connor, who was in the military, and Francis was this talking mule. The thing about Mr. Ed is that there was never any explanation as to how Mr. Ed was able to talk. It just dropped you in the middle of their world. And there was no backstory, right? There was just Wilbur and Mr. Ed. That was it. And then the neighbors, and Ed was always fucking with the neighbors as well. There was no backstory. And you didn't know who the voice of Mr. Ed was, but it was kind of a famous Hollywood cowboy who made a ton of cowboy movies, like B movies. And he was so it's kind of fitting that a cowboy was the voice of Mr. Ed in some ways. And the final episode of Mr. Ed was when Mr. Ed got married to another horse, and off he went into Mr. Ed world. Let's see, Misbehaving 2, January and Cold. That's right. But I love this thumbnail. Love that show. Oh, Enki, 100-yard dash. He's a beast. Go Enki. Everybody's repeating the lyrics of Mr. Ed. That's funny. The California Contrarian, what's up? How am I doing? Thanks for asking. I'm good. I had weird dreams last night. I had a dream that I was having elbow surgery, and it was being performed by the Manning brothers. Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. They were both involved. It was like they'd gone back to school and become surgeons. It was really weird. And I thought, man, this is really cool that I got the Mannings working on me. And then I remember being in the hospital bed and getting some saline solution and waiting for the anesthesia to kick in. So that means I'd be anesthetized in my dream, which would be kind of weird. And I never got anesthetized. I kept waiting for the anesthesia to kick in. But I was having an ongoing conversation with the Mannings while all this was happening, because I thought it was rather fantastical that the Mannings were in my dream. Sue Leonard loved Mr. Ed. Who didn't love Mr. fucking Ed? Am I seeing secrets coming out? Secrets are coming out all the time. We'll take a look at that. We're living in a time of disclosure, and some of it is right under your nose. Like, apparently Candace Owens is going to take on TPUSA in person in Arizona. That's going to be something. That'll be interesting. But there's stuff coming out all the time. But we'll take a look at it. Thanks for putting that on the request list. Well, Kobe last week find something last week that they weren't supposed to. That's a good question. Popping in to say good morning. Work meeting most of the day. We'll catch the replay. Okay, Amy. Amy V. Soul Travelers here. Janine's here. Hi, Janine. Anyone remember when Wilbur played a bad guy in General Hospital? I was crushed. I think it was Alan Wilson. I think that's what his name was. He lived to be into his 90s. He was also in The Time Machine with Rod Taylor. And he played the one guy in The Time Machine that had kind of a recurring role over Rod Taylor's journey through time. And that's where you can hear his English accent. Long time Hollywood. Yes, a horse is a horse. Man, I hit the home run with the Mr. Ed thumbnail. I really wanted to use the Mr. Ed thumbnail when he was getting married. And it didn't really work out because it wasn't a large enough thumbnail. All right, so I have to do something. I had this all set up from yesterday. And my tabs went away. Don't you hate it when your tabs go away? All right, let's just do a quick read through. Here we go. Let's see. I got to make sure I don't miss some peeps. Esperanza, Josie's Jazzy Junk, Janice Phillips. I wonder if Janice watched a little Mr. Ed back in the day. Scrubbies, what's up, Scrubbies? Doing the name check. Soul Traveler. JJ, Ring de Blanc, Lamb Chop. What's going on, Lamb Chop? Bill Kell. Let's see. Who else we have here? Lady Lou. Lady Lou. SL Salty. Hey, SL Salty. Let's see. Vaporwave. And I think we are pretty much caught up. I think we're pretty much caught up. Oh, Steve Zerlith Eternal, the Eternal One. Magdalene Munoz used to watch reruns episode. Who didn't like a good Mr. Ed? Steve, I think there was an episode of Mr. Ed where he breaks into a military base. Might have something to do with going to the moon. Who didn't like Mr. Ed, man? I mean, it's unanimous. Oh, I like this. A deer crossing your path spiritually signifies gentleness, grace, and new beginnings. I like that. Thanks, Sue. I'll take it. Are we caught up? Yeah, he gets married. Wilbur marries them. I guess Wilbur was also a minister. Apparently, Alan Wilson was a big Christian. So he had that going for him. All right, fellow Astro Weather watchers. By the way, I sent out an email yesterday it's like the first batch. So if you check your emails, I've been scouring through my accounts and getting those systems back online. So check your emails. If you've booked a reading, there's a good chance I sent you an email. Batch number 2 goes out today. Okay, here we go. It's reading time. Okay, here we go. Let's go a little bit. Oh, before I do that, I hold on. I'm putting the cart before the horse. See how I did that? We need to talk about Silver-Botanicals. And the link is in the description for the show, where you can go to this page and you can get the Gift of the Magi bundle, which is your gift bundle, the bundle that you can buy for somebody, and you'll get 8 thank yous. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You get one big thank you, but as they go through it, oh, thank you, this was great, this is great, this is wonderful, right? And right at the center of it, as I've mentioned before, is the Gift of the Magi spray. That is the killer app right there, made with ingredients. Like if you have a Christian in your family, get them this. Get them this. Your accusations of going to hell will be slowed down considerably. If you are going to a relative's house or even a friend's house, and they're big into this, I mean, you can just get them the bottle of the Gift of the Magi spray. But this is much more impressive. It's the centerpiece, and it is a personal scent, right, for rooms in your house, but also your body and your personal space. And it takes you right into the time of the birth, right, of Jesus. Because all the ingredients in this little spray bottle right there are biblical. They're all biblical. And they're all, as you guys saw on Friday's show of last week, they're all of the highest quality too, these ingredients. So last night I used the Silver Tongue Oral Care. I have an irrigator, and I like to put a little bit of that in with the water when I irrigate. And man, it's fantastic because you're getting that nanified silver, which is fantastic for being an antimicrobial and antibacterial. Of course, when you add it to the irrigator that gets in between your gums, you're actually getting that protection deeper into your mouth, right? So, and I used to do this before with other mouth rinses. I'd add it to the irrigator, but this one, because of the silver, gives it just an extra. It's like I don't know, 11 on the Spinal Tap amplifier, right? It's the 11 for sure. Anyway, if you get this, what you'll do is you get 20% off shipping as well, which is a great deal. There's some bulk here, right? So you're getting shipping for free. I mean, if you were to have this thing shipped out, it'd probably be somewhere between $8 to $10. I'd say probably about $8 for the shipping, because the bottles of the oral care and the bath they're not lightweight. I used to work for the post office, but I'm not up on the rates. But anyway, I think it's a good savings. And so it's $79.94 for the entire bundle. You've got the personal deodorant, you've got the sea serum, you've got the bath additive, which is absolutely fantastic. The Silver Mist humidifier, which you can use with your nebulizers. And then you get a little bit of Silver Shield sanitizer. So there you go, Silver-Botanicals. All right, let's get into the weather. Okay. It is a full moon. Look at that. You wouldn't be able to know it. We have gray, overcast skies today. It feels like it's going to rain. We might get a cold rain today. I still, there were times when I was a kid where I hated the rain because I wanted to go outside. But when I got older and I had more independence, I loved the rain. I loved going out and wearing rain-resistant clothing and being in wild weather, right? Where the winds were whipping and the rain's getting sideways. I love that shit. Absolutely love it. Let's talk about this full moon in Gemini. Somebody brought up, do I think any secrets will be? Yeah, I think so. I think so. We've got. Why don't we do this? We're gonna go. I'm just going by my instincts now. We're gonna look at the Sabian symbol for this degree of the moon that's going to be full. How about that? Isn't that exciting? And I have no idea what it is. We're just going to go in. Okay, so let me just take a quick peek at the sun again. The sun always shines on TV. Hold me. I can't believe. Oh, this is interesting. Gemini 12. Because as we speaketh, the moon is at 8, but it will be full at Gemini 12. What is 8? I'm just curious what 8 is. Oh, look at this. Let's start with 8 and then we'll go to 12. So this is where the moon currently is. Aroused strikers surround a factory. So there's kind of a radical expression of the moon in the air today. The disruptive power of the ambitious mind upon the organic wholeness of human relationship. We are dealing in this sequence of symbols with man's discovery of the new powers residing in his special contribution to the total organism of this planet Earth. His consciousness and aggressive mind. The first stage, phase 66, dealt with oil, the typical form of energy which the modern mind has made available. These symbols were revealed before atomic energy was generated. Before atomic energy was even thought of as a practical possibility. Now we see in this new symbol a pictorial indication of what the use of this intellect-generated energy inevitability leads to: industrial unrest and violence, as man manages to rape the earth in order to demonstrate his power and intensity, his pleasure and sense of proud mastery. Conflicts and disruptive processes are inevitably initiated. The arousal is presented to us here in its collective social form because we have reached the emotional cultural level. The type of power generated by the analytical intellectual faculties is essentially disruptive. It is based on the destruction of matter and invites egocentric hoarding and spoliation. And in general, privileges of one kind or another. This leads to revolt against privileges. That means look in the mirror and ditch your white privilege, or ditch your class privilege, just in case you're not white. That's where the moon is today. But at 12, which is the first one, this is aroused strikers surround a factory. And 12 is a Negro girl fights for her independence in the city. You can tell this is a little bit dated. A Negro girl. There was a time where that was part of the nomenclature. Liberation from the ghosts of the past. While newly opened lands, that's one before it, theoretically often virgin fields for experience. In fact, those men and women who reach them find themselves conditioned by their own past. They carry the ghosts of their former lives and the memories of collective social patterns with which they had identified their egos. Every new beginning is surrounded with ghosts or personal and social karma. Okay. The racial struggle for equality of opportunity must go on, even if this equality is officially guaranteed by the law. The struggle is within and takes many forms. The Puritans brought to the theoretically New World the fears, the fanaticism, and the aggressiveness of their European existence. And these often grew more virulent under the conditions found in the New World. But no field of activity is ever totally virgin, as its inhabitants and they cling to their possessions or privileges. There's that word again, privilege. Whoever seeks to be truly individual must be liberated from the past. Here at the second stage, we have the usual contrasting type of symbol. The new lands are open, but they're filled with lives, and the pioneer's mind filled with ghosts, preconceptions, and prejudices or expectations. What is needed is a total liquidation of the past, virgin minds for virgin fields. Wow, that's a lot. So I think in summary, as we go back to the chart, in summary, with this Gemini moon, it pretends to be something that's very disruptive based on those two symbols. We have aroused factory strikers, which is where the moon is now, and then we have the Negro girl fighting for her independence, and somehow the two don't seem despairingly different. They feel connected in a lot of ways. It's always interesting to try to gauge where we are in this part of the world, like, above the equator, because our activities and our thoughts are way more internal, right? I mean, if you want to go out and protest in 5-degree weather or 20-degree weather, you must be really committed, right? I mean, that would be the sign of ultimate commitment. But because the elements are, by and large, keeping people indoors more, these outward acts of rebellion and or organization are probably going to take place in the digital space, in the digital world. So this is, I mean, when we look at the full moon in Gemini and the sun in Sagittarius, and then of course we have Saturn and Neptune again down in Pisces. This whole period, especially with Saturn, Neptune, has been really affecting mutable signs. So if you're Virgo or you're Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, the Saturnian romp and then the nodes have been an interesting journey, have they not, with mutable signs? I can attest to that in my own way. So mutability, part of the triplicities, of course, cardinal, mutable, and fixed, is good. We need mutable energy. Cardinal energy can shake things up, but so can mutable energy. Mutable energy, when it is in some form of friction, right, can be quite liberating in a lot of ways. How would I? I'm just going into the social space here, the social sphere. Clearing my mind. Okay, what feels like gossip and chatter potentially leads to larger revelation. What starts as a rumor rapidly morphs into a fact. And the thing with Gemini is it's always more than willing to play the devil's advocate. It's willing to flip things on its ear, right? So I would say over the course of the next 24 hours, look for cracks in the facade. Stories not necessarily adding up. This is also Donald Trump's full moon. Actually, no, it's on his sun. We're close to it, so we'll be on his sun. The sun is headed towards his full moon, his eclipse moon. When I think of this, I think of Venezuela. I think of the bombing of these boats, and I'm just wondering how much of that is going to be allowed to play out, because apparently one of these boats wasn't what they said it was. I mean, this has kind of become like the new drone strikes in the Middle East. Well, let's go bomb a boat. And it was a Colombian fishing boat, and it was a legit Colombian fishing boat. And I mean, stuff like this got Richard Nixon kicked out of office, whether it was the Pentagon Papers, which sparked Watergate, or Watergate itself, and Nixon wasn't fully involved in Watergate, but it was clearly the Pentagon Papers. And it just goes to show you how entrenched people can be in the system. I mean, even going back to when Obama was president and there was the WikiLeaks information about what was going on in Iraq. And instead of holding Obama, who was the commander in chief, instead of holding his feet to the fire, again, that would have been something during Nixon's time that would be impeachable. I mean, what if Joe Biden started bombing boats that belong to fishermen? Like, how do you think the so-called right would feel about it? Not really good. Not really good. So I feel like there's some of this involved, because when we get into the moon, we get into sort of the lunar aspect, and the moon rules the tides. And there's been, I think, a considerable amount of pushback. And I think Rand Paul and there's a lot of bipartisanship happening. Again, in a weird way, Trump is bringing people together. And it's that Sun-Uranus conjunction. And so you have Rand Paul sitting down with Adam Schiff. Like, isn't that fucking weird? And they're putting together this War Powers Act bill, because this is really like, you could classify Venezuela as a terrorist state. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure that there are some countries that aren't terrorist states, but I would say most countries in the world have ties to something illicit. Like, they have either drugs running through them, or they're enabling other countries to traffic. I mean, all these things in a broad sense of the term can be termed terrorist. And this is what's allowed them to basically shoot down these boats. And I think this is where Mars comes into play. We've got this Mars square with Saturn, and the Mars square with Neptune right there, right? Like, Mars and Sagittarius, it's like, let's go open the cannons. Let's open the cannons on distant lands and foreign countries. Right? This is what Mars and Sagittarius does. It's martial. And Sagittarius represents far and distant lands. It's squaring off against Saturn and squaring off against Neptune. So I think that if we were to attribute part of this moon to the larger picture and what's going on out there, I think it has to do with what comes out around this all of a sudden war in Latin America. And the idea, of course, is the golden, what do they call it? The Golden Dome, to basically rule from the tip of Australia all the way through up Central America, through Canada, and up to the North Pole vis-a-vis Greenland. I mean, this is what they've been talking about. That is their global defense strategy. Against who or what? The aliens? Russia? Right? Do they want to have like missile technology lined up from Greenland to Argentina and everything in between so that they can take down incoming missiles from either the Russians or the Chinese? I don't know. I mean, they've talked about it, but it feels like that's on the menu. And I would say, just on a personal level, like anytime you get into the moon in Gemini, you get into gossip territory. Gemini is very gossipy. And sometimes there's truth in gossip, and sometimes there's lies, and sometimes there's both, and you have to sort through the two. If you've got siblings, maybe it's time to have that talk about your mother. What are we going to do about mom? What are we going to do about mom? You know, mom doesn't want to go to that home. Who wants to take mom? Who wants to take mom on? No hands are raised. It's a fine. Well, I'll do it. I'll be the one. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you for we've just been so busy with our remodel. We just can't fit her in right now. I think those discussions are happening. They're definitely happening. I would really think twice about being uber aggressive today. Here's where we are. We're getting into that Mars-Saturn square, Mars-Neptune square territory. And I just feel like, especially on the highways, this is what I was referring to last week. The highways are going to be really, really sketchy. And I think something will have to do with just the conditions of the season, but also the conditions of the drivers, right? Sagittarius, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Stop that. You know, I have this warranty company that keeps wanting me to buy their house warranty. And I let it go. You know why? Because they're fucking worthless. That's why. It's like I had this issue with my septic tank. Big ticket item. Oh, sorry, we don't cover that. Well, you know, that's why I have you. What do you cover? Well, they covered my stove. My stove was under warranty when I bought the house. We'll give you $300 towards your stove. But they don't give you $300. They send you some kind of a card, like a Lowe's card or something like that. It's just bullshit. Like I don't know. Maybe there's a better home warranty company out there, but the one that I got, and then they call me up, and I get somebody from their sales department, and generally they wish they didn't call me because I don't have the strongest opinion. Well, I have a strong opinion. It's just not the warmest opinion upon the warranty side. And you know what's really interesting too? I got to bring this up. Whenever I speak to the salespeople, they always speak perfect English. Whenever I speak to the warranty people, they don't speak English so well. When I spoke to the warranty people, I would say that they were either in the Philippines or India. Mr. Robert. Mr. Robert. Yes, Mr. Robert. Yes, I will forward this on to my supervisor. I got that yesterday when I was dealing with Square. Isn't it interesting? I get the English speakers when they want to sell me something. I get the non-English speakers when I want something done. I might be more apt to buy a warranty from a company where the people that are selling me the damn warranty are non-native speakers, but the customer service people are native speakers. I know it doesn't make sense and it's inverted, but it's just the way it is. Here comes the racist, jingoistic Sagittarian talk. Every time I speak with somebody on the phone who's a native speaker, my shit gets done. People take care of business. They follow through. They're easy to understand. Most of the time, they're pleasant. On the other side, it's almost like we're going to insulate the system and we're going to give you people you barely understand. And that way, if nothing gets done, well, we can kind of blame it on the language disparity. And there was a time where customer service jobs here in this country were, I wouldn't say that they were a coveted gig, but they actually paid pretty well. I remember when JetBlue came out, and they said, "Well, we don't need offices for people to handle ticketing. We can just employ them at home and give them all the tools and the power." And that's what JetBlue did. And when you got somebody on the phone, you wanted to do something with your flight, you got somebody who was able at their home computer and on their shift. And, I think it worked out okay. And this modern version of customer service is not very effective. Let's just be honest about it. I'm having an honest conversation about it. God bless those people. They're doing the best they can, but it's part of the degradation of the system, and it's not because they're bad or immoral or godless people. It's the fact that in most cases, every now and then you stumble across one, you get something done, but in most cases, you think about the good old days of Mr. Ed. Right now, we got a Pluto moon trine. Hey, if you got some gambling instincts, go buy some lottery tickets. I think today's a good lottery day. I normally don't say that, but if you're pulling up for gas, get yourself a lottery ticket. Now, in California, I was way more lucky than I am here in Texas. Astrologically, I had Jupiter in my 5th house. It was better for speculation. When I relocated, Jupiter in my 4th house is better for living, but the speculation part, not as good. Not as good. However, I do have strategies for lottery tickets. You want to buy the fresh batch. If you're going to buy a lottery ticket and you're looking behind the plexiglass, you want the lottery ticket that's fresh, not one that's kind of down. My theory is that they load the front end of these lottery tickets, so it's like a drug, and then you get hooked on winning. Oh, I won! I'm gonna buy some more. I'm gonna buy some more of this game. So I think they incentivize people at the beginning. I could be completely wrong, but that's just been my experience. And the other thing with lottery tickets is that you need to buy multiples. Because if you get one, there's probably a better than average chance that you won't win. Or maybe if you're lucky, you get your money back. And you go and get another ticket. But if you get 3 tickets, your chances of winning increase. Yes, you'll spend more. Of course, I also have found that the higher the value of the ticket, the greater the chance of the winning. So you got to find your sweet spot. My sweet spot, and I don't buy them, but today I might take up my own advice today and buy a lottery ticket or 3 of them. And I usually get $5 lottery tickets because it doesn't feel like I hate losing with gambling. Maybe I'll buy 4. I'll buy 4 lottery tickets today since Venus is at 4 degrees. And I don't know. Maybe if you want to play the numbers, you can do that too. I used to do that. I got pretty good at it, actually. There was a time in my life where I was like tracking this stuff and looking at the patterns. I mean, this is back in the 90s. And I started to do it with in California. I don't know if they still have it, but I started to do it with Keno. Like I used to go to this burger joint and play Keno in Berkeley. And that's where I would start to look at the patterns. And I transferred that. And I didn't do too bad at Keno. I was able to figure some stuff out. Anyway, let's get into our True Hemp Science star of the day. If you're still here and you've sat through this part of the show, you are dedicated. And I appreciate it. All right, our True Hemp Science star of the day is none other than Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. And before I get to Dennis, let me just, once again, I'm going to hold up the old properoo here. Here's a little container of Moonlight, the Moonlight gummy right there. If you've never seen one of Chris's gummies, let me just give you a visual here. I love the containers. They're very cool. And this is, let me find a nice one. So this is what the Moonlight gummy looks like. It is a gelatinous cube, with a little sprinkling of some sweetener on it, and highly effective. Highly effective. I will say this: if you decide to take the gummy during the day, you may want to stay around your house or leave the driving to one of your friends. But that's just one of many items that you can find at True Hemp Science. And right now, there is a first-time buyer discount, 20% off your order for you first-timers. And then if you type in 15MINS, you'll get the goodie bag. That's stuff on top of the stuff. TrueHempScience.com, your one-stop shop for all things CBD. All right, let's talk Dennis Wilson. So what's really weird is that yesterday was Patricia Krenwinkel's birthday. And I think the day before that was Tex Watson's birthday. And today is Dennis Wilson's birthday. And all 3 of them were connected to the Manson family. Dennis Wilson picked up Tex Watson. Actually, it was the other way around. Dennis Wilson, a fucking beach boy. Right? He can afford any car he wants. And he's hitchhiking. What does that tell you about Dennis Wilson? Dennis was a bit of a free spirit. Right? But all 3 of them, like pearls on a string, all connected to Charlie Manson. So what's interesting about Wilson and Watson, both W names, is they're both Sag and Leo rising. And you can tell Dennis Wilson's a Leo rising. Look at him. He looks like a lion, doesn't he? He was the middle of the 3 Beach Boy brothers, the Wilson boys. Brian was the oldest and Carl was the youngest, and Dennis was in the middle. And Dennis, you can see this in his chart with that Mars-Saturn conjunction. Dennis got the whoop ass. Old man Wilson, Murray, Murry. He should have bought a vowel. Murray, because Dennis was the most rambunctious. They all got it. But Dennis got it the most. Because, I mean, look, he's got a Sun-Mars conjunction. And in the 4th house, right? That's like violence. Total violence. He was the only Beach Boy who actually surfed, by the way. And on the other side is his brother, Brian, right? He's got Uranus and Gemini, and Brian's son is somewhere in that mix. And Brian is the family weirdo. And Dennis Wilson could not sit still. He was hyperactive. This guy, he learned how to play piano just so he could play at the church because there was a hot chick at church. He probably was about 12 years old. So he learned how to tickle the ivories. But he did not understand Brian. Like Dennis Wilson played sports. He played baseball. He played football. He surfed. He was heavily into the outdoors. And Brian was he was more of a nerd. And I think Dennis, I could be wrong, but he was the first of the Beach Boy brothers to put out his own solo record. I think Brian went out much later. But a lot of people think Dennis Wilson's solo record is actually really, really good. And when he was a drummer, he played incredibly aggressive when he was young. And that's that Mars-Sun conjunction. So he had to learn how to, kind of train the beast. But it's really interesting, the beast and the beast. What's really interesting is the connection with the Manson family, especially as it relates to the chart. So you go down here, and there's Scorpio, right? And Charlie's down here. Charlie and his heavy-duty stellium of Scorpio, ranging from his third house to his fourth house. And Dennis Wilson really dug Charlie Manson. He called him a wizard. And the Manson family lived at Dennis Wilson's house for months. That includes the girls. And during their stay there, Dennis Wilson spent over this is over $100,000 on the Manson family. And apparently a great deal of that $100,000 went to antibiotics for the gonorrhea that was being passed back and forth because the Manson girls. Charlie was a pimp. Charlie Manson was a pimp. That's like what he did before he went to prison. So being a psycho pimp wasn't that far out of his comfort zone. If we go to the 11th house, we can see the Beach Boys. Saturn's there, right? He had to, he only plays, I think, on one song on Pet Sounds. Hal Blaine does the rest of the drumming. But when Brian is gone, it's Dennis who is the epitome of a free spirit, and Carl, who is the probably the most solid of the three. They're the ones that hold the band down. But even with, like Dennis had to take on at times more of a responsible role with Saturn, although very reluctantly. This is a guy who I don't think was really into leading. He just wanted to be free and surf and take drugs and hitchhike and fuck. He was a notorious Lothario. Married, couldn't hold it together. I would say his mother was incredibly important for him, right? His mother is the source of strength, or was the source of strength in his life. Moon-Pluto conjunction, trining Mars, trining his sun, probably giving him words of encouragement while Murray beat the hell out of him. And then you get into that Saturn, right? Saturn being the father, and it gets into that cardinal T-square, Saturn squaring Chiron in the second house. I think that's Murray's fingerprints all over Dennis. And Dennis had drug issues too. Usually when we see drug issues, we look at afflicted Neptune, and yeah, we can see that. right? We have a Neptune Mercury square in his chart. And I think Dennis was probably very undependable. And was he a liar? As a Sagittarius, you sign a contract and you can't lie. But I think Dennis probably told stories to himself, right? Which is what that Mercury Neptune square does. And I think the idea of addiction, especially in the fifth house, where it's related to pleasure, getting into the pleasure zone of your brain, right? I think that could also be attributable to that Mercury Neptune square. Because, let's face it, when you do drugs, parts of your brain really, really like it, right? And I also feel like the Neptune Mercury was an escape from the burden of responsibility. Like when Brian went off the deep end, I think Dennis, being the next oldest, didn't really want that role. I don't think he was into it. He did have a Jupiter Venus trine. Very likable guy. Like, I think if you hung out with Dennis Wilson back in the day, you would have thought this guy is really cool. Like, super chill. But at the same time, deeply, deeply, deeply troubled. And it's a Saturn square with Chiron. Ooh, that's brutal. What degree is Chiron at? 1, 2. So Dennis probably started getting heat from the old man even when he was really, really young. Before 6, 7, 8, 9, when he's bouncing off the walls. He's got a Sun Uranus conjunction. He's a nonconformist. I suppose they were all nonconformists in their own way. Brian, of course, with his Sun somewhere around Gemini. Like, a lot of really interesting, eclectic people are born in the sign of Gemini in terms of the music world. Taurus on the midheaven. I think one of the things about Brian, which is also interesting, is that they used to have these family sing-alongs at the Wilson house. Family sing-alongs. Dennis hated them. But eventually, he and his brothers would stay up at night in their room and they would vocalize. And Dennis actually had a pretty good voice, although his voice was more of a basso profundo. You could hear him more in good vibrations. Brian and Carl, their registers were higher. But, finding his own voice with, Algol isn't conjunct in midheaven, but it is in the 10th house. And I think that was one of Brian's issues. It's just finding his own voice. Because he was the middle beach boy. I think he's got an interesting chart. I think he would have been fun to hang out with. A lot of energy. Also, just, wanting to be free. And his quest for freedom, he was like the fertilizer for the Manson family. He gave them a place to root. He gave them a place to seed and take hold, right? So, I'm not sure how that affected Dennis. Dennis died by drowning. That's how he ultimately met his demise, was by drowning. And you can kind of see that, even though Pluto isn't really afflicted, right? So the moon represents the tidal function of the ocean. The 12th house is oceanic. As Pluto is retrograde, maybe there was something going on with Pluto at that time and his moon. Maybe there was some sort of affliction. I'd have to look it up. Maybe I should have done that. Anyway, he met his demise with drowning, which is very 12th housey. Very 12th house. And he died fairly young. You know, he didn't stick around to watch age, ravage his body and spirit. Dennis Wilson was kind of forever young. You know, he was always in quest of the endless summer. So you had one Beach Boy, Brian, who was just bonkers. And then you had Dennis, who was untamable. And then you had Carl, good Carl. Carl's still around, I think, isn't he? Oh, he maybe passed away. But there you go. Your True Hemp Science star of the day. Leo rising, you can see it in his face. Charlie Manson loving, Manson family tenant, landlord, Dennis Wilson. All right, I will not be doing 15 minutes of flame today. If you're looking for the link, it is not in there because I'm not doing it. I am putting the blitz on my website to get this together and to continue to go back and work with people who have gotten orders. So I feel good. I feel motivated. I've got Mars is conjuncting Jupiter in my chart, right? So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling motivated. I'm feeling good. I'm pumping myself up. Anyway, I wish you all a blessed day, and use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. Treat each other well. Take care of yourselves, and watch out on those highways out there. You don't want to run into a Mad Max situation, even if it's naturally occurring. All right, take care. Bye for now.